Hi, I'm Rob Patz.
And I'm Kristen Stanton.
And this is the Rob and Kristen Show. Welcome to another edition of the Rob and Kristen Show. It's so good to be back with you. Been a crazy week, hasn't it?
It really has been, but it seems like every week is like that right now.
It has been crazy, but you know what? When it's this stressful like this, you know what you really need?
Sleep.
You do.
I do at least.
I do too. I could use some sleep right now, and in fact, if we weren't doing this, I'd probably be napping. But we want to thank the great folks at MyPillow. Mike and all the great people at MyPillow have done a fantastic job, and they have outstanding pillows. They are just, they'll help you sleep. And you know what? When you sleep, you're more productive. It's a new year. You've probably said to your husband or your wife, I want to be more productive this year. I haven't said that at all, but a lot of people have. Why don't you go over to mypillow.com, use the promo code ATV when you check out. That helps Mike and all the great staff there at MyPillow know about it. Not only do they have pillows, they have other great stuff and sheets and slippers, and just go to mypillow.com. Use the promo code ATV and they will help you there. Something else we want to help you with, because we feel it's important to have an educated viewer. We're going to tell you 5 things we think you should know. And you know, I got to be honest with you. This first story, it's interesting because there's a lot of background to the story. So I'm going to tell you the story, and then I'm going to tell you what I think it's kind of interesting. Hey, there was a statue that was found in Kentucky, and it's called Pan, and it was a very famous statue. And it's very interesting. The story goes that this gentleman was doing some remodeling work. He was part of a team doing remodeling work in Kentucky. And when they were doing this remodeling, they had to move stuff. And this was put off to the side. He thought, and rightfully so, thought it was discarded. So he asked if he could take it. He did. They said yes, and he did take it. It spent time in the back of this family's home.
In the backyard.
In the backyard. Do we have any statues?
No.
I think you should make one of me.
Okay.
We could do it sitting Rob. And I could be just sitting. That way I wouldn't have to worry while I'm posing. It was in Louisville, Kentucky, where and the family, interesting part of this, the family was doing research and found out that of course, that they were looking, that this institution was looking for the sculpture and returned it. So after 30 years, Pan is back in place. You know what? They cleaned it up in spick and span.
He wants you to laugh along with him.
Just laugh along. And if you did, hit the app and tell me how funny I am. Go to the app and hit us and say, Rob's funny. I like him better.
But can you imagine 30 years in the backyard? This statue, it was a statue of a guy playing a flute.
Yes.
And he spent 30 years in the backyard, and they were amazed at how good of condition it was in for not having any upkeep.
Can you imagine
for
like
30 years.
Birds landing on it and sitting on it, I'm sure.
Probably.
Cats crawling up, kids playing. They're probably playing football in the back. That's what I was going to say. Just imagine this, like it's a normal house. You know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Frisbees bouncing off of it, all kinds of stuff. I just totally think that would be funny. That to me was super neat. But, you know, I love that kind of stuff because it's important to celebrate family. And so that, in all honesty, and I'm sure that family has some great memories about their dad and about the statue.
I'm sure they do. And I'd love to hear some of their stories
Oh,
about
it'd be so cool. Yes.
of the statue.
Totally cool.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about another family where we're moving north to Michigan, Traverse City, Michigan. So here,
They have good cherries up there.
they are the cherry capital of the world.
Just thought I'd let you know.
So hey, I should have had the Traverse City mug out here
We
today.
should have.
You know,
Instead, we're very
patriotic.
That's what I was looking for.
But up in Traverse City, a 65-year-old man, and it was in the Traverse City area, he fell through the ice of a lake. And thankfully, there were people that were passing by, and they called 911. Michigan State Police were on the scene, and they couldn't get to the man because of the stability of the ice. Now, you know how it is. I mean, if the ice, we don't know how far out he was into the lake, but the stability of the ice can be really bad. And you know, if it cracks one place, that it can create stress cracks, which then make it weaker.
Scary.
And so this Michigan State Police said, I can't get to him, but he saw his dog, the man's dog, Ruby, was sitting next to the hole where her owner had gone through the ice. And so he told the man, send your dog over to me. And so Ruby went over to the Michigan State Police officer, and he put one of those rescue discs on her collar. She went back to her owner. He was able to grab onto the rescue disc, and then the state trooper and one of the firefighters that were on the scene pulled him to safety. And he did end up going to the hospital to get checked out because he was in the water for
16 minutes.
16 minutes.
Which is a long time in cold water.
It's a very long time.
Very, very, very happy that he's okay. And that's a neat story. You know, if I had been the guy, though, at the hospital, I'd have been doing I'm okay. I'm doing good. Me and the doctor. Those kinds
You
of
probably would have also done one with your dog, Ruby.
Oh,
Hey, Ruby's the hero.
Ruby would get an Instagram account. My hero, Ruby. That is awesome. Hey, that is a cool story. But do you think you could give up social media, though? I mean, we joke about, taking pictures, but could you give it up for a month?
I think under normal circumstances I could, but considering what we do, that would be tough. I mean, unless we had somebody else that would be willing to monitor all of our social media accounts for us, then yeah, I could do it.
Siggy's Dairy, though, is giving away $10,000.
I could do it for $10,000.
I couldn't do it for 10. I'm sorry, Siggy's. I could not. Nope, not for 10. It's not worth it to me. That's way too much. There's way too much work that I do via that. I couldn't do it. But they are offering it. They're going to select 10 people. Each of them are going to get $10,000. Here's the trick. You got to put that phone in the safe and lock it up. I don't know. I couldn't do it.
So how many of those 10 people do you think are going to actually complete it for 30 days?
One.
Do you think that's what Siggy's is counting on?
I'm sure they are. But a chance to you get the 10,000, you get a safe and some other neat prizes. Siggy's Dairy is doing this, and I think it's a neat idea. And I think a lot of it is to wanting people to kind of detox from social media. You go out at any time, and you're going to a restaurant, and people might be talking, but they're looking down. They're doing this. Mm-hmm. You see it. We both have seen it. We actually, even on occasion, have that bad habit ourselves, and so it's tough. But you got to do it for 30 days. I couldn't do it. I knew. See, at least I admit right away. I know it's not a way I'm doing that. It's not happening. I mean, there's so much that I do on my phone. So yeah, couldn't do that. I'd be carrying my laptop around all the. Because it just says your phone.
It does. The rules do say your phone.
Leave it to me. There you go. I'd be carrying my laptop with. I'd get a hotspot, can't have a phone.
No.
I'd have to just go to Starbucks and live. So and by the way, they're not a sponsor, so. But you know what I'd probably do?
What?
If I had to do this, if you said, Rob, we're doing this together. We'd have to be selected too. But if Rob, we're going to do this together, I'd have to take a trip. I would. I'd have to go somewhere. I'd have to get away. That's what I'd have to do.
Where would you want to go?
For 30 days? I don't know, somewhere warm right now. Not Galveston warm, but somewhere warm.
How about New Zealand?
Okay, let's go to New Zealand. I hear they're very laid back and nothing ever happens there.
Well, you might not be quite right about that.
Could be wrong.
Well, recently, travelers in New Zealand at the Wellington International Airport were stopped on a tarmac that was registering about 122 degrees. So
Galveston weather.
maybe a little warmer than
No,
Galveston.
that's Galveston. Believe me, I was there.
But they were sitting there on the tarmac because there was an unexpected visitor that went out onto the tarmac, and airport officials had to track the visitor down, and they had to try to capture the visitor.
Man, you'd think you'd have better security than that.
Well, the little visitor happened to be a 6-week-old penguin. I'm sure it was really cute. But they did but they did have to get it to safety, and they turned it over and had a veterinarian check it out, and the little penguin was healthy, maybe a little bit underweight, so they put the penguin on a weight gaining diet, and they said
I want that diet. I want the weight gaining diet.
and they said that they were going to wait until its feathers became waterproof before they let it go.
Oh, do you know though, like different animals remind me of different things. Penguins, they remind me like they could speak French. Oh, oui, oui, I am a penguin.
Is that because they're black and white and they have the little tuxedo look?
Oh, oui, oui. Hey, the guy in our next story though, he could probably talk French to the penguin if the penguin can understand French. That would be the case. French tourist, he comes to the United States. He's going to go do some stuff with the space program. Very curious about that. Goes there, then heads to New Orleans, and then he hears about something. You know, there are things in life that will change the trajectory of your life. This guy hears this story. He hears about a place called Diamond State Park, and you know what he does? He says, I must go. I must go to this place called Diamond State Park. And it was pretty smart of him to do this. So he travels up there, and when you're there at this state park, you can dig for diamonds, hence Diamond State Park. Truth in advertising. And so what he said, and he admits this, he was digging away, and it was tiring work. Well, obviously, it's diamonds. Obviously, it's not going to be easy. Otherwise, we'd all have a lot of diamonds. But he strikes upon something incredible. And that incredible thing was about 7.5 carat diamond.
Just under 7.5 carats, a brown diamond.
Brown diamond. And of course, he talks to his fiance and tells her about it. And the cool part about this is they name the diamond after her.
Yeah, that's a really neat story. I mean, this guy heard about this, and yes, if you're from Arkansas, we do realize it is Crater of Diamond State Park, but, you know, for our purposes, Diamond State Park is much easier to continue to say. We were in Arkansas last year.
Yes.
And I don't know what the weather is like in Arkansas in January.
Probably cold.
But this guy did say that it was really backbreaking work, and so he decided he was just gonna, after about noon, he decided he was just gonna go and look and see if he saw anything shiny, and lo and behold, he came upon this pretty looking rock, which happened to be
what he said,
pretty good sized
diamond.
Pretty
decent thing.
Now they did state that there are times when they go through the park and just to, I guess, disturb the soil. And more things will pop up, the diamonds.
And I wonder, because I don't know a lot about brown diamonds, I wonder how valuable it was.
I don't know, but I'll bet that they have some kind of appraisal that's going to be on their social media accounts.
Yes.
At some point in time.
You know, we are right around the corner from Valentine's Day. It's around the corner, ladies and gentlemen. And we, here at the Rob and Kristen Show, we love holidays. It's our thing. But we want you to tell us something you're doing for Valentine's Day with your sweetie. Now, you don't have to be married. It could be your girlfriend or boyfriend. We would love to hear from you. Hit us on our app. Tell us what you're doing for them for Valentine's Day. Don't you think that's a good idea?
I think it's a great idea.
I think it'd be fun. You know what? Right now, we're going to head to a video package that I am super excited about. We're going to roll that, and we'll be back right after the video.
Welcome back to the Rob Kristen Show. Today we are here in preparation of Valentine's Day. We have a very special guest and someone who is dear to my heart, Catherine Andres. Catherine, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me today.
So Catherine and I got to know each other because she did my makeup for our wedding, and she did such a fantastic job. I have since taken makeup lessons from her. I've learned and purchased some products from you.
Yes.
And different things like that. And so it is so exciting to have you here today.
Thank you.
What are some tips that you can tell people about maybe their skin regimen? I mean, because we've got a couple of weeks leading up to Valentine's Day. Is there anything they can do to kind of get their skin ready? Because, hey, if you're in a cold weather climate like we are right now, my skin gets dry, and therefore my makeup starts looking, patchy because my skin gets dry. So what can I do to fix this?
Yes, I would love to help you with that. So when it comes to weather conditions, environmental reasons for dryness, this is one of the reasons why I got connected with a brand to promote. I know that it's so important for skin to be hydrated, for makeup to look good. And so what you hear a lot is when seasons change, women are no longer happy with their makeup and they feel like they all of a sudden age so much and now they feel old. But it has a lot to do with the fact that their skin is drier and the makeup isn't sitting as well and smoothly on the skin. So it's always been a pleasure of mine to help support women in finding a skincare regimen and formula that fits with the environment and the condition their skin's in at that time. So of course we need more nourishment and hydration. Between the heat, the cold wind, it's just sucking out every bit of moisture that is already in our skin. On top of, people usually are a little more dehydrated from the inside out in the winter. We're not as active and whatnot. So I love to help navigate people in creating a skin regimen that supports the base of their makeup, and then also a foundation formula that's going to have some skin benefits in it for hydration and luminosity. Would you like to hear about one of the key things?
It's so important. I do.
Yes, your skin looks great. You look gorgeous. So one of the key ingredients is hyaluronic acid.
I've heard a lot about that. It's in the news everywhere.
Yes, it's buzzing. And it's interesting with the beauty industry because there's always a keyword and then everybody puts it on their label. And then,
Right?
Hyaluronic acid is something that I've been using since I was 19 years old. So when I started in this industry, and it sounds like it could be aggressive as an acid, but it's actually a moisture magnet.
Really?
Mm-hmm. And so what hyaluronic acid does is where there's hyaluronic acid, it will hold on to 1,000 times its weight in water and hydration. And our bodies produce it from the inside. But as we age, our hyaluronic production slows down. And so it's a key ingredient. It's a small little molecule that does so much when it comes to boosting our skin's ability to hold on to hydration.
Oh, that is super interesting. I never knew that. I saw that on a lot of products and I seem to be hearing it more. I've seen it more. And so obviously that's something that we all need to look at. I'm one of those people that like to change up my skincare routine depending upon the season.
Yeah.
And I find, that certain things work better in the summer than they do in the winter.
Absolutely.
So if there's somebody out there that wants to connect with you to maybe do, even if they're in Australia, we have an Australia audience. So if they're in Australia and they want to connect with you and maybe do a virtual consultation, how do they get a hold of you?
The best way to contact me is through my website, biobeautycat.com, BIOBEAUTYKAT. So when you go onto my website, let's connect. You can connect right with me. You can shop on my website as well for products, but I really love to support people. It's really important to me that my clients feel confident with their purchase and that they're purchasing the right things based on where they're at that time, like you said, seasonally and whatnot, and that they feel confident with the application as well. And that's where I want to be their personal, assistant in supporting them in their application and steps, and I'm with them along the way. So definitely connect, take the time and reach out. I'm happy to connect.
That was a super fun feature, and I wasn't even in it. I was behind the camera. So the excellent photography was yours too.
Videography.
That too. I took a good picture too.
You really did.
Yes.
You took a fun picture. But the best part about this is, Rob, that we've got more to the interview. Unfortunately, we couldn't put it all into the show here today. So if you want to catch the rest of that interview, plus Catherine did a lip demo, so that if you are interested in learning how to use makeup, ladies, to make your lips fuller, she talked a little bit about that, and she demonstrated that for us.
So you can find that. It will be on our in-demand section, so go there and check it out. We'll put it under the Rob and Kristen show, so you can find that there. It's a full interview. I had so much fun just watching you guys have fun. Kristen just completely lights up when you talk makeup, and she was like kid in candy store for about an hour, so it was a lot of fun. Hey, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we are going to be back in Luke chapter 17. So we were there last week, and if you were with us last week, we were in Luke chapter 17, and we started and we got through a little bit of this chapter, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. In Luke chapter 17, we are going to start in verse 11. We're just going to go back and reread some of those verses in case you weren't with us last week. And it said, "And it came to pass as he," referring to Jesus, "went to Jerusalem, that he passed through the midst of Samaria and Galilee." And so last week we were talking about how Jesus was passing through. He had a place that he was going, but he was passing through. God's plan was for him to pass through this particular region for a particular purpose. And we also talked about how God's plan for our life might have us going to a particular destination, but God's plan has us passing through things that we may not necessarily want to pass through. But the key into all of this is remembering that we are simply passing through. So if you are in a spot right now that you really don't want to be, remember it's temporary. God has you there for a reason, and just keep on walking, keep on trusting, keep on following God, because you will also be passing through onto the place where God has you to be. And in verse 12 it says, "And as he," again speaking of Jesus, "entered into a certain village, there met he 10 men who were lepers, who stood afar off. And they lifted up their voices and said, 'Jesus, Master, have mercy on us.' And when he saw them, he said unto them, 'Go, show yourselves unto the priest.' And it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed." And so I want to back up here just for a couple of minutes, and I want to talk a little bit about these lepers. And if you've heard our podcasts before, or you've heard us talking about this before, you know that the leprosy was symbolic of sin. Mm-hmm. And so in this particular passage, I find it interesting that God chose the lepers. Jesus could have come across anybody, and yet he came across the lepers, and as they probably were necessary, they needed to do this, they needed to call out, because I believe that they had to call out at that time and say and let people know that they were lepers. And so, but they called out in this particular situation. When they saw him, they said, "Jesus, Master." They recognized him for who he was, and they gave him that position by calling him Master. And they said, "Have mercy on us." I don't know what they meant when they said, "Have mercy on us." But it could have been their way of saying, "Look at the situation that we're in, and please help us. Please help us, Master. Look at this place that we're in." And I'm sure that they'd probably heard stories about how Jesus healed people. They probably heard stories about how he spoke and people came back from the dead, how the lame were no longer lame and the blind could see and the deaf could hear. I don't know chronologically when all of this happened, but there's only a small portion of the miracles Jesus did that are actually recorded in the Bible. And so I'm pretty positive that the lepers had heard about the miracles that Jesus had done.
And they knew, I was thinking about this. So they knew this may be their only chance.
It might be their only chance.
And when people are in that situation, they'll call out and just have mercy on me to help me to, I'm suffering.
I don't know what I need. And that's a lot of times people that are in that position. And remember, leprosy was symbolic of sin. So people that are in that position where they're in sin, they may not necessarily know what they need, but they know that they need to change. And they don't know how to go about doing that. So I want to read something here. In verse 14, it says, when he saw them, so he saw them, he heard them and he saw them, but he said, when he saw them, he said unto them, go show yourselves unto the priest. Hey, go show yourselves unto the priest. Well, wait a minute, Jesus, we have leprosy. You can tell because you saw us that we have leprosy. We can't go into the city. We're stuck right where we are. There's a gate here. We're not allowed to pass through to go into the city to show ourselves to the priest. And so what do you reasonably expect us to do? And I don't know if maybe they were thinking that or not, but he said, go show yourselves to the priest. And it says, and it came to pass that as they went, they were cleansed. As they went, they had to take those steps of obedience in order to be able to start their miracle. If they weren't obedient, if they didn't call out to Jesus, Jesus would never have done anything. And then once they called out to Jesus, when Jesus commanded them to do something, they had to walk in obedience. Whether it made sense, whether it went against societal norms, whatever it might have been, they had to be obedient and they had to go and show themselves to the priest. And I'm sure that as they were walking, they started noticing these little changes. But here's one of the things that I wanted to really think about. When you think about this situation and you think about that these men were lepers and which are symbolic of sin, and their leprosy kept them outside of the gate and they had to show themselves to the priest. If you are living in sin, you are living outside the gate. And who is the gate? Jesus Christ. And your sin will always keep you outside of the gate. It will always keep you away from Jesus. It will always keep you away from your healing. It will always keep you away from your overflow. It will keep you away from everything that God intended for you. But when you see Jesus, you have to call out to him, and then you have to be obedient. And when that happens, you're going to pass through that gate because you're showing yourself to the high priest. That
is awesome. Hey, listen, if you have a prayer request, we would love to hear from you. Use our app, email us. It's sales@abundanttv.com. You can do either way. And we would love to hear from you. And we want you to go out and live an abundant life.